Well, thank you for coming. We're going to be taking a look at Sonible's Smart Comp 2 today, which has just been released. It's a spectral dynamic compressor. It's a spectral dynamic compressor. That is basically the evolution of Smart Comp 1, which I did some videos on many moons ago. I really love that plugin. I still use it a lot, but now that this one's out, that might all change. Now, just to forewarn you, this has been sent to me for free. Don't let that sway you, though. Don't think I'm going to give you a biased opinion on something just because I've got it for free. I am always very honest about plugins and what I like and what I don't like, because at the end of the day, the developers need to hear the best of both worlds. They need that balanced feedback and opinion in order to, you know, improve upon the product. And the more people that do that, the better. Win-win for everyone, right? I'll add some timestamps to the video for those of you that are impatient and just want to skip through. For the rest of you that want to stick around, I don't know how long this is going to be. I haven't scripted it. We're just going to go for it and see what happens. Let's get stuck in. First thing I want to talk about is the new interface. This is really good design. You have everything there that you need. You've got your metering, you have got your controls. When you're actually using it, you've got your waveforms as well. And as you're changing the settings, it will update the waveform to reflect what it is the plugin is actually doing to it, which is very informative and really does help you understand what it is you're hearing from a visual point of view, especially if you're trying to wrap your head around compression and what it's doing. So a massive thumbs up for the design. I really do like it. When you insert the plugin on a track, by default, it'll be this size. I am using a 2K ultra wide monitor, so use that for reference. But you can scale the plugin by clicking the bottom right corner and dragging it out. There's a maximum size you can scale it to, which I would like to see increased. And I would also like the ability to put this plugin into full screen mode. In the settings menu, it would be nice if there was a tab or an option that allowed us to set the initial scale of the plugin for when we insert it on a channel. So every time I add this plugin in, if I want it to be at full scale, it'll open up in full scale, because it just makes things a little bit more convenient. Right, so I've inserted this on the main mix bus of this track, and it's already pre-mixed to an extent, but the drums and the vocals have got no plugins on them because I want to put Smart Comp on those in a little bit. I'm not expecting it to apply a lot of compression on the main mix. So it'll be interesting to see if when it analyzes it, it sets a very light compression setting. And if it does, then that is awesome. It's the AI and the machine learning doing its thing. And then we can use different profiles to shape the overall spectral compression to tailor it to a specific kind of template, for lack of the better word. Okay, so it's recognized it doesn't need a lot of compression, and it's doing very minimal compression. Now from the top here, we're going to choose one of the profiles. I'm going to go for pop and see what this does to the settings. Okay, so it's changed the ratio and it's changed the threshold. But what I also believe is it would have tailored how the spectral compression's working as well, and how it smooths things out for this particular profile. Yes, it does. You can see it change there. When I changed it to electronic, it's changed it visually. So, spectral compression for this plugin, the easiest way to explain it is if I pull up Pro MB. A regular compressor just operates on one band, so it's compressing across the whole spectrum. Okay, and you can choose. You know, some of them have got sidechain filters, so you can choose what part the compressor is actually compressing out of that spectrum, but it's always one band. A multi-band compressor, it's in the name, it has multiple different bands, so you can apply various different compression settings to different bands across the frequency range for the track. You're quite limited with multi-band compressors because you can only use so many bands. With Smart Comp, it's the spectral compressor is basically like having a 2000 band version of a compressor applied across the track. But not only is it automatically adjusting the compression settings for each, they're all sort of talking to each other and working together to shape the overall sound, which a normal multi-band compressor just doesn't do. It will only work to the parameters that you've set it to. So that, I think, is the smart part about it, is that they're all working together. And not only is it sort of compressing each band to tailor the curve, but then that entire curve across all those bands can also be shifted to give it a different sound. And I think that's what it's doing. That's my understanding of it anyway. I'm sure the guys at Sonible will correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that is my understanding of it. So that's why this is a very special compressor, is because of how it works. It gives you a lot of control. Now, we can dial in the amount of that spectral compression that's happening to smooth out the tonal imbalances here in the middle by increasing it or decreasing it. But then we've got these extra controls like style and color. So color, I believe, will be shifting the overall curve to make it sound brighter and then or darker. And then style, I think this is doing something different entirely, because in my original overview videos of Smart Comp 1, one of my suggestions was it would be great if we could have different colors of compressors. And by that, I mean that with hardware compressors and even plugins now, you have different styles of compression. You've got FET compressors, you've got opto compressors, you've got all these different compressors that have a slightly different style to them because of how they achieve compression. And this dial here, if this is what my suggestion was to try and give us some of those flavors, I'm going to be really pleased about this. So clean is more transparent, and dirty is... what's dirty? Dirty style leads to a tight and punchy sound. I am looking forward to that. So let's play the track and we'll play around with some of these controls here.
Tired eyes, tired mind, no need to apologize. My love, I tried, but now I'm tired. Please run small, it makes me cry. And I think it's best to walk away from this. Just leave me with one last kiss.
Wow.
Your skin dancing my knees.
Wow.
Now turn away and let the bottom shine.
Wow. That is... listen.
Because the ship's sinking now, and this fire is burning down.
What is that doing? It sounds like it's adding harmonics, like saturation or something underneath.
And this time is just not enough to stay just for love. Heavy heads, heavy heads.
Oh man, I like that. I like that. I'm happy. I am happy, Sonible.
Tired eyes, tired mind. No need to apologize.
Yeah, it sounds like it warms up the sound, but it sounds like it's possibly adding harmonics or saturation. But is it also shaping them as well? There's some wizardry going on there. It sounds good. That sounds amazing. That's without it. Then listen to what it adds.
I tried, but now I'm tired. Please run small, it makes me cry.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. While I was editing the video, I realized I completely missed out covering Channel Link and Spectral Link. So let's quickly go over those. When working in stereo, Channel Link will be available to use. And when it's at 100%, it means Smart Comp 2 is processing both the left and right channels equally with the compressor. Now, as we decrease this value to 0, it means that Smart Comp 2 essentially acts like two compressors, one for the left channel and one for the right channel, so they're working independently. So let's take a listen to what it will sound like. Let's start off at 100% and then we'll decrease this value.
I'll find things to fill my time, and I think it's best to walk away from this. Just leave me with one.
It definitely sounds to me more open when it's processing the left and right independently. It's a really cool function, and the fact that you can blend it like this is really useful. So I think mastering engineers are going to like that feature, along with the ability to process things in mid side as well. So you can process how much compression is happening on your mid channel. You can also shape the freeform transform for your mid, and then when it comes to the sides, you can do exactly the same. You can either put more compression on the side channels or less and shape the freeform as well. Really, really powerful stuff. The other thing I missed out was Spectral Link. So as we're playing the track and the spectral compressor is doing its thing, you'll see down here this is reflected with all of the green. Now what we can actually do is tell Smart Comp where we want the spectral compression to be applied to, or what band of frequencies we want to. So if I change this to something like 7K and this to like 200, it means it's only going to be applying spectral compression within this region. Now the stuff that is on the outside of this, so here and here, when Spectral Link is set to 0, it's using full band compression to these ranges. Okay, now as we increase the value to 100, it stops using compression, so we can tell it to apply no compression to what's happening outside of this range where spectral compression is taking place, and it can really alter the sound.
Your skin raising my lips. Now turn away unless abandon ship. The ship's sinking now. This fire is burning down.
Really, really interesting, and I'm sure if you play around with that enough, you're going to get some really cool results, especially when you tie that in with the channel link as well.
This time is just not enough. Stay just for you.
Honestly, this compressor is a mastering engineer's wet dream. So I've got the plugin inserted on the drums bus, and one of the features I want to play around with is the freeform transform, which allows us to expand or compress the loudness underneath the threshold, which is really interesting because it adds another layer of shaping to the compressor. So let's select the drums bus profile, click learn, and then we'll start playing around with some of the different settings for the freeform transform. First thing I want to do is just raise this threshold. We're going to take off auto release and we're going to just go straight to 0 milliseconds. And then for the attack, I'm going to go to 0 milliseconds as well, because I want to see how aggressive we can get. Now with the freeform transform, this will, again, like I say, allow us to shape the expansion or compression happening under the threshold. So essentially what I should be able to do is give the drums more sustain on the tails. So let's try that. And you can see how it updates the waveform as well as we are doing this, which is really, really good. The fact that we get that visual representation that's happening in real time. Now, if I take this the opposite way, it should have more of a gated, chopped effect because it's going to dip the level. Really interesting that we can do this. So you could technically use this as a gate as well to gate out bleed, which is really handy if you're going to compress a track and it's got some bleed in. You could shape use the freeform transform function to try and remove some of that bleed so it's not being hit and going into the compressor, which is really useful. It's like there, I can just get the snare. Really, really cool stuff. I really like this feature. This is really awesome. Now we do have some profiles as well that you, should I say templates that we can select. So standard. We have balance mid. Expand mid. Squeeze mid. Parallel compression, so it's going to try and mimic the parallel compressor sound. And then we have noise gate, which goes back to what I was saying just. So that in itself is an amazingly powerful tool, and if you use it correctly, it could really help get some awesome compression sounds. Now, in terms of the additional controls, not only can we control the attack and release, but we also have additional settings by clicking these down arrows. We can shape the curves of the attack and release, which is insanely useful. So with a negative value, we can make it fade in more aggressively and really go crazy on those transients, which is great for drums. So you would set your attack time and then make this like a high negative value, and it would be more aggressive. Whereas if we do it the opposite way, it's going to be more relaxed. So this determines how it ramps in. Okay, and then it's the same story with the release as well. We can make it more immediate or we can make it more gradual. And it's kind of, think of it like using a fade on like an audio track where you're using like a fade in or a fade out. You can basically just control how the curve is fading in and out. And it's the same with the compressor. This is really damn useful. So I've got this inserted on the vocals track. I'm just going to click learn, and we're going to try out the input riding feature, which is essentially automating the volume going into the plugin. So it's like having your finger on a fader and riding the volume to keep it consistent between loud parts and quieter parts. So when it's compressing more evenly across the vocal track instead of just certain like loud sections triggering the compressor. It'll make it more smooth. So let's click play and let this learn.
Because the ship's sinking now.
Okay, so this is the compression setting it's coming up with.
And this fire is burning out.
Now, if we click input riding, it will go green to activate it. And I can't recommend a setting for this because it's going to be dependent on what the source is.
Because the ship's sinking now.
You can see that it's going green here on the fader.
And this fire is burning out. Because The ship's sinking now.
Okay, so this is, I guess, telling us how much it's riding
and
it
this
by.
fire is burning out. Because the ship's sinking now. And this fire is burning out. Because the ship's sinking now. And this fire is burning out. Because the ship's sinking now. And this fire is burning out. Because the ship's sinking now. And this fire is burning out. And this time is just not enough to stay just for love. Heavy hands, never mind, no regret.
Down back that intensity a bit. And the speed. Maybe 50-50. Might be the best way to go as a start point.
Now turn away and let's abandon ship. Because the ship's sinking now. And this fire is burning out.
That's without it.
And this time is just not enough to stay just for love.
I mean, this compressor sounds awesome. It really does. I know I'm not really taking my time with this. I'm just kind of flying through it and just playing around, but it's powerful, man. You could... I think this might be the best compressor on the market at the moment. Not because of the AI stuff, but purely because the amount of control you have. I don't think off the top of my head there's anything else that has this many features packed in. And the fact it's technically a multi-band compressor that's just insane because of the amount of bands it's working across. It's hard not to recommend this to everybody, and mastering engineers as well. Wow, you're going to have fun with this plugin. It's got everything. I think it has got everything. Now, in terms of the downsides, there are a couple of things I want to talk about in terms of the user interface. When you are working with the freeform transform, sometimes here, if you go outside the range, well, how are you going to grab it? Then you're going to have to scale to see it and then grab it and then play around with the nodes. One thing I would suggest might be a workaround for this is that as you grab a node and you move it outside the visual range, the plugin automatically starts scaling the view, so you don't have to do it manually to then correct it. I think that should be a thing. And the other thing I want to point out in terms of using the plugin is if I go to my main stereo output with this on, when working in mid-side, I would much prefer a way to select the mid and side just by using two buttons here with M and S, simply because when you've got these bands stacked on each other like this, it can be difficult to switch between them by clicking on them because you end up clicking on other boxes and other controls. So for me, I would rather have two buttons here that allow me to select the mid and side channels to work with. Also, another thing is with the attack and release boxes, again, when these are outside the range, you're having to adjust the scale to get to them. But then if your threshold is crazy high, there's no way of you accessing this without bringing it back to a place where the boxes are hovered. So maybe implement this in a slightly different way as well to avoid this kind of thing happening. I don't know how you would maybe do that, but I'm sure there is a way that you clever designers at Sonible can think of. CPU usage, I haven't really measured it, to be honest, so I can't say for sure how efficient it is, but I know my meter up here is high, but I've got a lot of plugins running in the project anyway, so just ignore that for this video. The only other things that I haven't seen in this plugin that might be good to have is an oversampling feature in the settings. And yeah, I off the top of my head, that is pretty much all I can really think of at the moment. I'm sure there'll be other things that I would have missed and a lot of other people might have picked up on. So it's obviously everyone that is using this right now, it'd probably be good to have somewhere where we can all go to talk to each other about providing more suggestions. There is a GearSpace thread for Smart Comp 2, which I will put a link in the description box below. So if there is things that we can collectively think of that we can provide feedback for, then maybe we should all post it there and help Sonible to, build upon an incredibly useful product. So that is it for now. I might do a follow-up video with some more examples because I know there'll be a lot of you that will go, oh, well, I didn't really hear much of the sound of it. We'll do some follow-up videos for it maybe if there's a demand enough for it. But yeah, from me, if I had 4 arms, I'd give it 4 thumbs up, but I'm just going to give it a double thumbs up. Awesome plugin. Go check it out, download the demo and try it for yourself. Thanks for watching.